Okay. Hi everyone. Are you guys able to hear me? Just drop a quick yes or no in the chat. Everyone, am I audible? Okay. Today as well, I might not be able to turn up my cam, so just bear with me. Like it should be resolved by next or next to next class maximum. Okay. I'll share my screen. I can see there were a few submissions regarding the Quora project. I'm happy to see that a bunch of you guys have actually made the effort and did that. Let me share my screen. Just 1 second. Okay. So let me share my screen. Are you guys able to see the shared screen? Is my shared screen visible? Okay. Close. Okay. Cool. So in the last class, we started our discussion regarding the auth service and we were able to complete the sign up API, right? Remember? So, okay, one more second. Let me change Postman, quit Postman, and let's open it from here. Okay, cool. So, any questions from the last class, anybody? Anybody having any questions from the last class? Just quickly let me know. How many guys tried actually making or setting up the Spring security part? How many guys actually tried to do that? Anyone? Tried, but getting some setting up models was more hectic. Yeah, that's why I asked you guys, like, do you want to segregate the models first or do you want to set up the auth end to end first? Anybody else who tried? Any luck? Okay, cool. Please try it out. Please try it out so that we have a fair idea. And like, if you guys will not try it out immediately, like within a class or two, then like you'll be lagging behind a bit. Okay, so make sure you do that. Let me bring in my iPad. Everybody is able to see my iPad screen. What's the difference between www and HTTPS? Okay, both of them are absolutely unrelated. First things first. HTTPS is a protocol. HTTPS is a protocol on top of TCP, or you can say a wrapper over HTTP with a security TLS, I would say, certificate. And www, it's for World Wide Web. That actually signifies that you are trying to connect to the internet. So both of the things are different. Okay. Everyone, make sense, guys? Cool. Now, if you remember in the last class, we talked about the fact that there are three components that we have to build. We are done with the first component, that is the registration, right? The registration part we are done. The next part, which is kind of like one of the most crucial part, is the authentication part, right? This is kind of like most crucial, right? And again, we are going to use Spring Security. We are going to use Spring Security package in order to implement that. There have been, like I was reading yesterday, a bunch of things that recent updates in Spring Security have changed a few things in the API. So we'll try it out. Maybe there can be a few errors here and there, but we'll just bear with it. Okay. But before we actually start integrating Spring Security, we need to understand how exactly the authentication mechanism actually works. Are you guys able to get this point? Everyone? Okay. Nowadays, so if you carefully see any website, you will see a bunch of options for authentication. Like when you have done the sign up process, or even if you have not done the sign up process, like overall for your authentication part, you will see a bunch of things. For example, you will see login via email password. Okay. You will see login via Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. Right? You might have seen these kind of logins as well, right? Login via Facebook, login via Google, so on and so forth. Yes or no? Okay. Yes. And then you have login through SSO, single sign-on SSO, right? And login via mobile SMS OTP. Mobile SMS OTP altogether. Make sense? Cool. Now, in order to facilitate all of these login mechanisms, the internal architecture that empowers these kind of mechanisms, the internal architecture that actually empowers these kind of mechanisms is actually kind of same. Can anybody tell me what is the mechanism that empowers it? What's the internal architecture that actually empowers it? Token based auth? No. Abhijit is saying the right thing. Abhijit is saying the right thing. JWT? Not exactly. I'm talking about the architecture. Yes. So there is something called as OAuth. OAuth. Anybody knows what is OAuth? Somewhere you will find it being called as OmniAuth. Somewhere you will find it called as OpenAuth. Okay. OpenAuth. Right. Whenever you see any kind of these architectures, right, most of the time internally, whatever setup anybody has actually prepared, that setup is going to be very fairly similar to the setup of OAuth. Okay. Currently, the version of OAuth that most of the time people use it, OAuth 2.0, that has a few recent updates and everything. And we are going to try to understand how exactly OAuth works. Okay. And the implementation that we are going to do is also going to actually resonate with OAuth. Are you guys able to get this point? Okay. So if you open any application, like let's say, for example, if you open any course websites nowadays, you open any ticket booking platform, everywhere, you will find login via Google, login via Facebook, so on and so forth, right? Now, sometimes you will find login via email as well. Sometimes you'll find both. Sometimes you'll find with mobile. But internally, everything is kind of like going to be dependent on OAuth altogether. Okay, cool. Now, what exactly OAuth actually, I would say, presents? So OAuth, the main architecture of OAuth, actually internally empowers your login via Google, FB, LinkedIn. These kind of login mechanisms are actually empowered by OAuth. Are you guys able to get this point? And then similar architecture or that of OAuth, you can actually implement in your email, mobile SMS OTP, these kind of mechanisms as well. Okay. Now, let's try to understand how exactly internally login via Google, Facebook, all of these things work. But before we try to understand how exactly OAuth and everything works, we have to first of all understand why would somebody prefer OAuth, or why would, like, again, I will not say the word OAuth, but why would somebody prefer login via Google, Facebook, and everything? The most important part about login via Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, and everything is that you do not need to share credentials with everyone. Can I say that? Let's say currently Book My Show has login via Google and login via email as well. Now, the moment you see login via Google, don't you think it's convenient? You don't have to put your password again. You don't have to share the password with Book My Show. There is a sense of relief. There is a sense of reliability with Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, GitHub, these kind of platforms, that they are very hugely scaled platform, very big platforms. The chance of them making any kind of, like, I would say, mistakes is very, very less, and your data is more or less secure with them. Are you able to get this point? Okay. And apart from this, like, application that you use, Google sign in and everything, also doesn't have to maintain their own auth, because then they can just rely on the security standards of Google, Facebook, and everything to actually get things done for them. Can I say that? Do you guys understand why anybody would like to prefer login via Google, login via Facebook, and everything? Okay, cool. Now, in order to facilitate OAuth, there are some very crucial components that actually plays the role. The first component is the resource owner, or you can say the user itself. Right, the user itself. This is the entity that is actually having access to the protected resource, like your ID, password, and everything. Are you able to get this point? The second entity is actually the client. The client can be bookmyshow.com, or it can be leadcode.com, or it can be paytm.com. These platforms which actually offers you OAuth capabilities, right? Then there is going to be your resource server. There is going to be your resource server. Okay, this is the server of, let's say, server of LeetCode, BMS, Paytm, which is having user information. Okay, this is the resource server. Okay, and then the most crucial component, auth server or authorization server, or whatever you call it. This is like the Google or Facebook or GitHub servers. Okay, where the logic of the authentication and everything is actually present. Are you able to get this point? Guys? So these are the four main components that actually empowers OAuth. We'll see how the mechanism works, but these are the four main components that are going to play with each other. Are you able to get this point? Okay. Now, how exactly things work? So let's say this is the login page of Book My Show. Login of Book My Show. And here you have a subtle button which says login via Google. Okay. Now the user, the resource owner, what the user is going to do is, the user is going to do an action and let's say click on this particular button, login via Google. Are you able to get this point? Now, this interface the user is seeing on the web browser. This is the web browser. Can I say that, guys? This is the web browser. Yes or no, guys? This is the web browser. Okay. Okay. Now, what this web browser is going to do is, this web browser is actually going to communicate with Google Auth servers. Okay, depends. If it is a login via Google, you click, it is going to communicate to Google Auth servers. If you click on login via Facebook, it is going to connect to the Facebook Auth servers. And then what will happen is that the Google Auth servers or the Facebook Auth server, whatever server you are using, is going to serve the login page where you see which email ID to log in with, right? So they are going to serve you with login page of Google account. Okay, login page of Google account is something that is going to be served to the user browser. Okay, so the browser is going to redirect itself, the website is going to redirect itself to the login page of Google, where you can actually enter your email and password. You can enter your email and password. Now, can you see the email and password collection is done on Google platform? Are you able to get this point? Okay. So now you have a sense of relief that, okay, Google is not going to do much of a fraud with you, probably. Can I say that? Okay. Now what is going to happen is the moment, let's say now here also there is a submit button. Maybe there is a form kind of a thing, and there is a submit button here. Now, when the user is going to fill the details and click on this submit button, what's going to happen is that Google is going to check for these credentials. Okay. So what will happen is on the Google servers, Google will check for credentials. If there is a two-factor authentication, then it will prompt for the two-factor authentication, whatever there is you have set up, but it will check if all the authentication things that Google requires somebody to say yes, that okay, this is the same person that they are acting to be. It will do all of that checks. Are you able to get this point? And if the credentials are correct, what will happen is Google servers are actually going to send a one-time auth token, to resource servers. That is the servers of, resource server. That is the servers of Book My Show, Paytm, whatever it is. So they are going to send this one-time auth token. This token can be kind of like a string, a random string, maybe that might possess some information, might not possess some information. We'll talk about this token. We'll talk more about this token. Okay. This token can possess some information. This token might not possess some information. Depends. Okay. But it's going to generate a one-time auth token, and it is going to send it to, let's say, Book My Show servers. Okay. Behind the scenes, it was going to send it to Book My Show servers. Are you guys able to get this point? Any questions as of now? Okay. Now, what Book My Show servers will do, is that this auth token, they are going to modify this auth token, right? Why do they need to modify the auth token? Because Google servers also need to make sure that the Book My Show server that they are actually forwarding the request to, because now what happened? User has trusted Google and Google is forwarding the request to Book My Show. Now Google also need to make sure that nobody has hacked the servers of Book My Show and everything. Can I say that? Google also need to make sure its integrity, right? We are not blindly trusting Book My Show servers. So Google can also not trust blindly the Book My Show servers. Can I say that? We'll talk about that, Garvit. Let's wait for it. We'll talk about it. Okay. So what Google will expect that Google says that, okay, first of all, you also identify that whether you are in a right shape or not. And for that, whenever Book My Show opts in for a Google sign-in, Facebook sign-in, Google generally shares some kind of a secret API keys. because they are now using Google APIs to actually get the login. So they will send some API keys altogether. And then what Book My Show has to do is, Book My Show will be actually using this API keys and this auth token, right, to create a set of credentials. How these credentials are created, all of those APIs will be provided by Google. You have to integrate it in your backend. And then you have your API key that is registered with Google. You have the auth token that Google has just shared you. You'll pass it to those set of libraries and they will create a credential for you. Are you able to get this point? And you have to send back this credential to Google. Okay. If Google finds this information correct, then Google says that, okay, you are the right Book My Show. You have the authority to access this user's information. Because when you actually log in via Google, then sometimes you will also see some permissions that, let's say, Book My Show wants to access your calendar, Book My Show wants to access your contact, so on and so forth. Can I say that, guys? Can I say that? Okay. Now, because it's not like just the Book My Show platform has to get users' data, right? It's Google who is providing the users' data. So Google also need to make sure that the auth mechanism between the Book My Show servers and Google servers is also right. That's why it needs these kind of credentials. Are you able to get this point? Okay. And once done, what Google is going to do is, Google is again going to send an auth token. Okay. Google is going to send an auth token, right? Which is also called as access token. Okay. Are you able to get this point? This access token is going to be extremely crucial. Okay. This access token is going to be extremely crucial because now this access token is going to be used for retrieving all the user information altogether. Okay. So what now Book My Show is going to do is, Book My Show is going to send this access token back to the user. So now Book My Show will send this access token back to the user. And now the user can actually use this access token. The user can now use this access token to access resources from Book My Show server. Are you guys able to get this point? So the most interesting part here is that Google is actually acting as your auth server. This is your main auth server, which is actually checking the credentials and creating a bunch of tokens for you. Are you guys able to get this point? Now, if you are willing to have Google or Facebook or GitHub or LinkedIn to do your auth, then you can opt in for their servers. Otherwise, if you replace this particular part with your own servers, right, then you can set up your own authorization server altogether. So just think about it. Let's say this is your user. Okay. Your user comes on your website. And instead of you showing them login via Google, login via Facebook, what you show them is directly login via email and password. Okay. You put your email, you put your password, or maybe phone number, whatever it is. Okay. If it is a phone number, then you put the phone number. We send you the OTP, then you put the OTP as the password. Like, again, that mechanism is straightforward. And then the user actually puts the email and the password. Okay. Cool. The moment user clicks on submit, what we are going to do is we can actually send this request to our own custom auth server. This custom auth server is now going to be responsible to check whether this email and password are correct or not. Okay, because the user has already registered, so we can check it from our database. We have already done the registration. So what will happen is it will try to access the corresponding database altogether. Okay, to check if the user credentials are correct or not. It will get an access to the database to check if the user credentials are correct or not. And if the user credentials are correct, then what it is going to do is it is going to return the user an access token. And now, if the user want to access any of the resources of the website, for example, want to book something on Book My Show or anything, then the user is going to send this token along with every protected request or every protected feature of your resource server. Resource server, this is your custom server. Like if let's say you are making a Uber application, then this is your Uber booking server, or this can be your review service, anything. Okay. And then you have to send this token here. You have to send this token here, right? Now, the moment you send this token to the resource server, what resource server is going to do is it is going to actually make a request to the auth server that, hey, auth server, is the token valid? Is this token generated by you and given to this particular user? And if the token is valid, then the auth server will say, yes, the token is valid. And then the resource server can start processing your request. If the auth server said, no, this is not a valid token, then resource server will not actually process your request and give you an unauthorized response altogether. Right? Are you guys able to get this point? How exactly we have replaced the Google auth servers with our custom auth server altogether? Yes or no? Is this point making sense? Okay. Now, if this mechanism is making sense to you, do you guys realize that this token that we are actually talking about, this token is pretty important. This token is pretty important. Now, there can be technically three mechanisms. There can be technically three mechanisms to facilitate this whole architecture. One can be a token-based auth server. Now, how do you implement the auth server? Now we are talking about how do we implement the auth server. Now, there can be a token-based authentication. There can be a session-based authentication, or there can be a hybrid authentication as well, which is kind of like the club of token and session both. Okay. Now, let's try to understand each one of them, what we are actually talking about. Okay. Now, what is session-based authentication? What is session-based authentication? So I'll give you a real life scenario. Okay. Let's say you are making an edtech platform. You are making an edtech platform. Okay. Or maybe you are making, maybe let's say a streaming service. Right? These kind of platforms. Why I'm taking these specific example? Because these are the platforms where you do not want multiple users to log in at one point of time. For example, let's say if you are Netflix, you only want 3 login at a time. Right? You are going to only allow 3 login at a time. Or let's say, let's take a simple example of something like Hotstar. If you remember the good old days of Hotstar, even if you have premium of Hotstar, they maximum allowed 2 to 3 logins only in devices. Right? In earlier days, nowadays, I guess they have expanded to what, 4 devices? We can in fact check. So let's see what are the Hotstar plans. Hotstar pricing. Okay. So number of devices. Can you see? Even if you buy the most premium plan of Hotstar, they are going to allow you 4 devices maximum. Right? 4 devices maximum. Okay. Now, if let's say Hotstar says that you can have maximum 4 devices. Right? You have maximum 4 devices. In that case, have you ever noticed that let's say you log into 4 different devices? The moment you try to log into the 5th device, what happens is Hotstar actually prompts you that you have already some logins present at these places. Right? Please log out from one of the place to facilitate the new login altogether. Have you guys ever seen this kind of a scenario? this, and we are also speculating, like if I have to implement something like this, right? This can be very easily facilitated by a session-based auth. In a session-based auth, what you do is you actually, when you are logging in, right? Hotstar technically gives a token to the end user client. And Hotstar also stores this token inside their DBs. How many of you guys are able to get this point? How many of you guys are able to get this point? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. Okay. Now, what are they going to store in the DB? So in the DB, maybe they will store the token information, when this token was generated, right? When what was it generated? Okay. Maybe the location where the token was generated, so on and so forth. Are you guys able to get this point? Okay. And this token we call as a session ID. This token we call as a session ID altogether. Are you guys able to get this point? Yes, Parth, I'm coming to that. Are you guys able to get this point, guys? Now, so this session ID is with the user as well. And this session ID is present in the backend as well. Okay. Now, in case somebody has to log in, when somebody logs in, put their email ID password, they will get this session ID. And now every time they open Hotstar, they have to send this session ID. So client is going to store this session ID somewhere. And every time they want to view something on Hotstar, they are going to send this session ID. What Hotstar is going to do is they are going to validate whether this session ID exists in my database or not. Whether this session ID exists in my database or not. Are you guys able to get this point? Okay. If the session ID is present in the database already, then you are good to go. You will be able to access things. If the session ID was not already present, then Hotstar is not going to allow you to access anything. Are you able to get this point? Now the thing is, let's say 4 devices already have their session ID. 4 devices already have their session ID. The moment 5th device starts coming into the picture, right? Then it will try to log in. When the user will log in, Hotstar can query the DB. How many sessions are already going on for the particular user? How many sessions are already going on for the particular user? If Hotstar finds that there are already 4 sessions going on for the particular user, it will not generate a new session ID for this user and instead ask the user to log out from somewhere. When the user will log out, the corresponding session ID is going to be destroyed from the corresponding database. How many of you guys are able to get this point? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. Okay. Now there are platforms like some edtech platforms. In edtech platforms, what happens is that let's say you log in from one device. They maximum give you 1 device login only. The moment you log in from the second device, the session ID for this device is automatically destroyed. The session ID for this device is automatically destroyed and you generate a new session ID. Like all the old session IDs are technically destroyed. So the moment you try to log in again, you are not able to log in and hence you again see the sign in page altogether. Are you guys able to get this point? And for every device, you should have technically different session ID so that you can identify each device properly. Are you guys able to get this point? Okay, so on the platform of Learnist, I'm assuming that if I have to make a platform of Learnist, if you share your ID or password with any of your friends, then the moment your friend logs in, you get logged out. You get logged out. Why? Because your session ID is then deactivated. Make sense, everyone? Okay. Now the second type of auth. Is the token-based auth. Now, interesting part here is that this session ID, if it is just a random ID also, then also it's not going to harm us a lot because on the database side, corresponding to the session ID, we are going to store a bunch of information about the user, its location, so on and so forth. If it possesses some data, it's not going to hurt us a lot. But even if it doesn't possess, then also we don't have an issue. Whereas in token-based auth, what you do is you generate a special token, which is not present in the DB. Which is not present in the DB. That means this approach is stateless. Stateless means that we are not going to persist the state of this particular token in the DB. Are you able to get this point? Okay. For example, if I have to make something like Book My Show, I do not care how many login of a particular user is there, right? I do not care about that. So to create something like Book My Show, a token-based auth can actually help us. Now, what will happen in a token-based auth is that we are going to create a special token. And because we are not storing anything in the DB, this special token actually possesses information about user. Okay. So what happens is that when actually the client tries to access the server, right? So what we are going to do instead, we are going to first of all make the client request to the auth server. And if it is a login request, then auth server is going to return a token to the client. Now, this token is not at all present on the auth server. So it's the responsibility of the client to store it. The moment client loses it, they cannot log in back with the same token. This token also has an expiry associated. So it's not like it is for lifetime. You can have an expiry associated, like maybe a month, maybe a week, something like that. Okay. Now, this user or this client set is going to keep this token with itself. And then whenever it has to access any resource, they have to send this token. Okay. And then this resource is going to validate this token from the auth server. Okay. And because this token is not a normal token, it possesses information about the user. Auth server is going to decode the token. It is going to decode the token, get the information about the user, and send it back to your resource service. Are you guys able to get this point? Here, in session-based authentication, you don't need to decode the session ID. The auth server can query the database and get the information from there. But because this is stateless, this token is then going to contain the information altogether. Are you guys able to get this point? And for token-based authentication, the special type of token that we use is called as JWT token. JWT stands for JSON Web Token. Are you guys able to get this point? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. So there is a website that you guys can visit. Okay. There we have a question. Parth, if we create a auth service where only one device can access it, and also we can log in through that particular device, will it be a bad thing, right? Because if device is misplaced, the user won't be able to access. Generally, every session has a expiry as well, Parth. And for platforms like Netflix and everything, it's their bread and butter. So they have to maintain the fact that doesn't matter if you lost your device, then maybe you have to raise a security request, or maybe you have to reset your password. In case you lost your device, then don't you think session is not your problem? Your session maintenance is not your problem. The problem is people will access the app, right? So you should technically forget the password and reset all things. If we only log in through that device. Okay, let me read the question again. If we create auth service where only one device can access it, and also we can log in through that particular device. I didn't get your question. Like, Parth, let's bring Parth on call.
Hello.
Yeah. Hey, hi, Parth. Tell me.
Hi, Sandeep. So what I was saying is, let's say if we have an auth service where only one device, we can access the services using only one device, right? Only one device is there. And also, we can only use that particular device. Let's say I am using Netflix, for example, through my laptop. Now, if I try to use it through my phone, I cannot use it through my phone. I can only use my laptop to log in through. Then that will be a bad design, right? It will be a hardware-based idea.
I don't think it's a bad design. It depends on the business. Okay. It depends on the business. Like if the business requires you to only authenticate from a particular device, then that's the thing. For example, if you have a company laptop and the company has a strict, for example, if you go to Google, you cannot access your Google account on any device. You can
Oh,
only
correct.
access Google accounts, like Google employee accounts, and same thing with Microsoft as well. You can only access Microsoft accounts with Microsoft issued devices.
Correct. Correct.
If not, then there is a whole long process to log in it to my personal computer, and every information of my personal computer is then going to go to Microsoft. So it depends
Okay.
on the business use case. I don't think it's a bad design. Like it might be a bad design for Book My Show. It's not a bad design for Google employee login, I would say.
Yeah, for generic service it may be a bad design, but for very specific
Yeah,
requirement,
depends.
it's a good.
As I say, for a tech platform, let's say, for example, I am not sure if nowadays these companies exist, but if you remember, long time back, there used to be companies where they used to send you tablets, and from that tablet specifically, you can access some particular courses and everything, right? You cannot access
Yeah,
it from anywhere else.
correct.
So that company also needs it. So it depends. It depends.
Okay. Okay.
Got it?
Yeah.
Sir, but if session ID for one user is deleted, how will this request to restricting access to okay, let's bring Shubham on call. Let's bring Shubham on call. Hi Shubham, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, yes. So my question was like, let's say there is only one user allowed. Hello.
Okay, okay.
If there is just one user allowed to access the resource, and user two
Mm-hmm.
tries to access that resource, we will be deleting the session ID for first user, right? When we delete
Yes.
it, and while the user one is using the resource, how will that? How will we this client get to know that the ID from database has been deleted?
So that's the thing. No, just think about it. Give me example of any application where the one user is using the resource and the second user logs in. For example, let's take the example of Hotstar. Let's say you are watching a movie on a Hotstar. Okay, four
Yes.
people are already watching. The fifth person tries to log in, and the fifth person said that okay, log out from me from device D1. So what happens when you are actually streaming? It's not like Hotstar gives you a link, a URL link of the movie. No, you keep on requesting data from Hotstar servers. You keep on requesting data from the Hotstar servers. The moment any other device logs you out and deletes your session ID, the next data packet request that you are going to do for the movie stream, you are going to
Yes.
get a response that you are unauthorized.
Yes.
Make sense?
Yes.
Right? So it like any application, like of course, if you have Zomato opened, then it is open. The moment you click anywhere else, you are gone. Are able to get this point? Or
Yes.
you might need to set up a persistent connection, like a socket connection, so that the moment, or maybe you have to send a server side event so that you immediately log out also without even doing any activity on the particular device. Make sense?
Yes.
Right. So you have to set up that mechanism. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Make sense, everyone? Is this point making sense? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. Pawan, we are going to discuss about JWT, but I'm saying that this special token that I'm talking about, the standard way of creating this special token that stores your information also, it's not just a random token, it stores your information as well, is using JWT tokens. What is JWT token? How it works? We'll talk about it. Make sense? Okay, cool. Now, one thing to note is that doesn't matter if you're doing session based auth or token based auth, client has to remember some kind of a token, right? Client has to remember some kind of a token. So somewhere the overall security also depends on what exactly the corresponding client is actually using to store the tokens as well. Are you able to get this point? Okay, for example, let's see, like I will tell you what can be a good way to store the tokens on the client side, but let's see. So maybe let's open Book My Show or something that I have logged in. Let's open Medium. I have logged in Medium already. Okay. So if you go to medium, and let's say if you inspect, and let's bring it here. If you go to application, can you see inside your browser, there are different storages that is available. Can I say that? There are different storage, local storage, session storage, cookies, etc. Can I say that? Yes or no, guys? Okay. Now you can see a lot of information is being stored in your session storage, in your local storage altogether. Are you guys able to get this point? Now it's your responsibility to decide where exactly you want to store the token that we are going to send from the other side. Are you able to get this point? Okay. For example, let's see for Netflix. Okay. I'll tell you what is the best way, like at least in my opinion, but let's see a few apps. Let's say if I open Netflix. Okay, so I have Netflix already logged in. Okay, if I inspect, if I go to application, and if I see here, can you see again a lot of data is being stored by Netflix here? If you go to cookies, can you see? And there is something like this secure Netflix ID and everything that is coming up here. Yes or no? Right? So a good way to store these tokens, if you are using browsers, for example, can be using HTTP only cookie. Now, what is HTTP only cookie? HTTP only cookie is a special type of a cookie which is not accessible through your JavaScript code. Are you able to get this point? Like you can do whatever you want to do, but you will never be able to access this HTTP only cookie via JavaScript on your browser. By any mechanism, you won't be able to see it. It will be there in your browser, but you won't be able to access it anyhow. Are you able to get this point? But with every request that you are going to send from the browser, this HTTP only cookie will travel with that request. So you will be able to see HTTP only cookie on the server side, but you will not be able to see the HTTP only cookie on the client side. How many of you guys are able to get this point? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. Okay. So this is a good way to actually store at least your data on the browser part. Make sense, everyone? Okay. Coming back. So now, and we will also see how can you set up HTTP only cookie, maybe using Spring Boot. It's straightforward as far as I remember, but we'll see. Now let's talk about the JWT token. JWT stands for JSON Web Token. Now, anybody knows what is JSON Web Token? Let's see. So generally, JSON Web Token is used for stateless auth. You can combine it with session auth and make it kind of like a hybrid mechanism where you use JWTs as well as session storage on your server side. Okay, but generally it is used for stateless auth. Are you able to get this point? Now JWT is a 3-part token. There are exactly 3 parts that facilitates JWT. Okay, and when I say token, you can say it's a string. It's kind of like a string only. So first of all, let me show you the structure of this 3-part JWT token. Okay. So I'll open jwt.io. There is a website jwt.io that talks a lot about JWT. Okay. Let's see. You can see, learn more about JWT. If you go to learn more about JWT, you can see JSON Web Token is an open standard that defines a compact and self-contained way for securely transmitting information between parties. Are you able to get this point? Okay. So why do you use JSON Web Token? Generally for information exchange, for authentication, authorization, things like that. And can you see the structure is a 3-part structure. There is something called as a header. There is something called as a payload, and there is something called as a signature. Are you guys able to get this point? Okay. For example, if you scroll up here, jwt.if, you scroll up. So, for example, can you see this JSON data? Can you see this JSON data? So, what is there? What is there is, there is something called as a header. There is something called as a header. There is your payload data. That is the data that you want to technically secure. And then there is a verification signature altogether. There is a verification signature altogether. Okay. Together, all of these three together makes your end-to-end JWT token. Are you able to get this point? Now, let's talk about all of these components of JWT. Now, the first component of JWT is the header. Are you able to get this point? Okay. This is the header. Can you see? This is the header altogether. Now, this header, again, scroll up. Okay. Now, this red part that you see is corresponding to this header, right? This is corresponding to this header. Are you able to get this point? Now, this is a base 64 URL encoded form of this JSON that is mentioned here. Are you able to get this point? So, if you do base 64 URL encode, okay, I believe you're going to get a similar structure like this, but let's copy, let's try it out. Data is this. Can you see you are getting a similar kind of a structure, right? You're getting a similar kind of a structure altogether, and depends how exactly you are sending this JSON with how many spaces and everything. This is going to be modified accordingly. Make sense? And can you see? The moment I removed all the spaces, I believe it's exactly same here. XVCJ9, XVCJ9. Can I say that? So this is what? This is the base 64 URL encoding of this particular JSON structure. Are you guys able to get this point? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. I believe everybody knows base 64 conversion, base 8 conversion, like, you know, I would say conversions like these, right? Hexadecimal to something, something to something, right? Okay. Now, inside this JSON, there are two parameters, ALG and type. ALG defines the cryptographic algorithm that JWT token is going to use. Okay. And type defines the type of the token, which is in our case JWT. Are you guys able to get this point? So the algorithm that it is using here is HS256. You can read about HS256. HS256. Okay. You can see it's a symmetric algorithm that shares one secret between this. Okay. So it's a algorithm that is used by JWT to encrypt your data. Are you able to get this point? Are you able to get this point, guys? Okay. Now the second part that you see is the payload altogether. Are you able to get this point? This is the payload, or this is the information that you want to send or transmit from one place to another place. Got it? And the third most crucial part is the signature. This is kind of like very crucial. The third part of this JWT is this signature, which is also a base 64 URL encoding. And it is the sum of the, you can see how it is created. It is created by base 64 header, then appending a dot, then base 64 conversion of your payload, right? This total information, header plus dot plus your payload. When all of this is actually passed to an algorithm, HMA SHA256. Okay, so this is a hashing algorithm. So you can read about it. You can see it's a type of key hash algorithm. Are you able to get this point? So what you do is you pass your information of the header and the payload through this hashing algorithm. And for this hashing algorithm to work, you have to pass a secret key as well. You have to pass a secret key as well. Are you able to get this point? And based on that, you are going to get this information altogether. That's the third part. Are you able to get this point? So it's kind of like the sum of the encoded header, encoded payload, and a secret also that is used to facilitate the algorithm. Right? Now, why do you need this signing part? You need this signing part to make sure that nobody has actually modified the header or the payload. Because the moment you modify the header or the payload, this sign-in key is going to change. Are you guys able to get to this point? Just think about it. Using the above two information and a secret key, you create the third information. The moment you change it, the key will change. And if the key changes, and if it doesn't match with this key, that means somebody has actually tampered with your JSON web token. Can I say that? Are you able to get this point, guys? When HS256 is used, Pawan, the SHA256 is used to create the signature. Are you able to get this point? This is used to create the signature altogether. Everyone, is this point making sense? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. I'm talking about the header algorithm. One second. Here, this one, this is going to be used for the encryption part. This is going to be used for the encryption part, Pawan. Okay. Make sense, guys? Overall, in a nutshell, again, this is too much cryptography. Like as an engineer, if I talk specifically, this is too much cryptography that if you want, you can just take a very deep dive on. Okay. In my opinion, this is something that has been already prepared for us, and we should try to build things on top of it. So one thing that you can take care about is that if somebody tampers the JWT, we will be able to detect that already. Okay. So the integrity of JWT is always maintained. But the moment you lose your JWT in wrong hands, then nobody can save you. Are you able to get this point? No, Parth. It's generally system specific. As far as I know, it's generally system specific. Sir, but we can get to know the payload with token. So will we not get the password? No. So guys, this payload generally doesn't stores the password of the user. You should never store the password of the user in the payload. Because the moment, if somebody gets access to your token, they can decrypt this token. Are you able to get this point? Decryption of the token is possible the moment you lose the token. Somebody cannot send random token to you, or somebody cannot send tampered token to you. But if you lose the token, then people will be able to decrypt the data. So that means this payload should not contain sensitive information. Are you able to get this point? How many of you guys are able to get this point? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. Any questions from anyone? Any questions from anyone, guys? So you can read more about JWT. Like you can say search for internals of JWT. Okay. And then you'll find tons and tons of articles around how exactly the payload works, how exactly signature is prepared. You can see there is a payload, then there is a signature. You can see all of this information. You can read about a bunch of articles, but I believe you don't need to do any research on JWT because there are enough libraries already prepared that can generate JWT directly for you. Are you able to get this point? So this is kind of like a more like a research work that somebody else has already done for us. Make sense? Session ID is generated from the token that is given by auth server. Yes, Rachel. You can also have the JWT token as a session ID. That will be the hybrid approach to go for. Or it can be a random token as well. Make sense? Anything else? Anyone? Anyone wants to talk about something else? Anyone having any questions, guys? Pawan Patil, it's not in the session-based auth. It was in the OAuth that Google will start providing user informations to BookMyShow, right? For that, Google also once need to authenticate that we are communicating to the right BookMyShow server, or this BookMyShow server is not compromised. For that, every time, like when you, like, let's say you are some XYZ application and you want to integrate Google Auth, Google is going to send you an API key. And this API key will be used to create some credentials that Google is going to identify that, okay, this is a legitimate server altogether. So we can send information to these servers. Make sense? Sensitive information like password, but we pass payload in request body, right? So sensitive information is passed in payload, right? Okay, Rachel. So Rachel has a question, and I believe there might be some confusion in few people said. So when you're going to log in, when you're going to have request sent to /API/login, you're going to have a request body where you will send your email and password. Okay. This information is going to be sent to the auth server. The auth server will validate the password, generate a JWT token, and send this token back to the client. Inside this JWT token, the payload that you can have can be a user ID, email of the user, expiry of the token, but never you store a password, right? So the only time when the password is exposed is when you are making the login request. Now, how can you save it from here? You can use HTTPS protocol to stop any man in the middle attack to read this password. Are you able to get this point, Rachel? So the JWT payload is not the same payload that the user is going to send. It will be a custom payload that we will ourselves prepare. Got it? Any more questions from anyone? Okay, cool. So in that case, let's start building up a few things. Okay. So if you remember, we have our user service with us. Okay, we have our auth service with us. Inside this auth service only, we are going to facilitate everything around JWT and prepare a new API of login. And in fact, we already have an API of login with some random things that we are doing there. /sign-in/passenger. Make sense? Now that doesn't matter whether you're going to sign in a passenger, whether you're going to sign in a driver. Both of them will need what? Both of them will need a JWT. Can I say that? So there is a Spring Boot package which is pretty famous, which we call as JWT. Okay, we'll check the Gradle dependency for. You can see io.json web token JWT. Okay, this is the package that we are going to use in order to facilitate creation of JWT altogether. Make sense, everyone? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. Okay, so let's see which version we want to have. So there is version 0.12 as well. Let's get the latest version maybe. Okay, copy to clipboard, and we'll come to build.gradle and paste it here. Okay. And again, guys, whenever you are using third-party libraries, you do not need to remember everything. refer some docs, have some straightforward mechanism, and things should be a good to go. You don't need to remember it because libraries keep on changing. If you see how Spring Security was set up in the earlier days and now how Spring Security is set up now, there have been some changes. So no point of actually remembering. You have to remember the concept instead. Are you guys able to get this point? The concept should be there in your head. Okay, guys. Cool. Now, if I carefully see, you have a passenger DTO already. Okay, let's close everything. Let's start building up a few things. Okay, let's start building up a few things. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do is in the services, I'm going to create a JWT service. Why? Because driver login also needs a JWT. Passenger login also needs a JWT. And inside JWT, we just do not want creation of JWT. We might also want to validate JWT, right? Because for the first, whenever you log in, like you put your email ID, you put your password and you log in, then you will get the JWT token. Now with every request, the user will also send the JWT token. So in that case, we have to verify the token as well, right? Don't you think? Everyone. Don't you guys think that is going to be the case? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a brand new service and we will call it as JWT service. Inside this service, we are going to do everything correspondingly. So I'll mark it as @service. Okay, cool. Now, as I mentioned, every JWT can have an expiry as well. You can actually set up an expiry as well. So this expiry you can actually set up in the application properties. Can I say that, everyone? So you can say go to application properties and we can define a new variable. We can say JWT.expiry. Okay. And let's say we want the JWT to expire in, let's say, 60 minutes. Right. Or maybe, let's say, yeah, 60 minutes. So you are going to set it here, I guess, as milliseconds. Okay. So in 1 second, in 60 minutes, how many seconds do we have? So we have 36. You have to set it in seconds. You have to set it in seconds. Okay. In seconds. Create expiry in seconds. So we'll say 3600 on. Make sense, guys? And now let's start creating our JWT service. We are going to configure a bunch of things, right? We will see how each and everything is going to take place and what is the use of everything. Okay. So first of all, we are going to have a property private int expiry. And where we will get it from? We want to get it from application.properties. Now, how can we get a value from application.properties, guys? How can we get a value from application.properties? We talked about it. Yes. So there is an annotation @value. Sorry, not validated. Value. Okay. And here in a string, we can say $, and you can mention the variable here. JWT.expiry. Copy. Paste. Make sense? And remember the secret also, we need a secret as well. So we can have a JWT.secret as well, which is going to be something like this. So we can have a random secret. We can have something, let's say, I'll keep the secret as algocam for now. Okay. And we can have one more property, which we can say private final string secret. Okay. And let's say this is going to get the value from, this is going to get the value from $. And what is it? JWT.secret. Copy and paste. Okay, let's see why this is throwing an error. Yeah, let's not have it final. Yeah, let's have it like this. Okay, so now we have a secret and we have an expiry. Make sense? Okay. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to have a method private string create token. Create token. This method is going to create a brand new JWT token for us. Okay. So this method creates a brand new JWT token for us based on a payload. Based on a corresponding payload, it is going to create a brand new JWT token for us. Are you guys able to get this point? Is everyone able to get this point? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. Okay. Cool. Now, how will it create? How will it create the corresponding token? Okay. So we will say it is going to take a map, because if you remember, the payload is what? Kind of like a JSON. There was a JSON payload, and JSON payload can be replicated as key value pair, right? So the key is always going to be, let's say, a string, and the value can be an object. It can be an integer, it can be a double, it can be another string, it can be anything. Okay. And we will call it as payload. Payload. Okay, let's import map. Let's import map. Here we go. So we have a payload with us. Can I say that? Okay, cool. And what we are going to do is, now we just installed a JWT package. Remember? We just installed a JWT package. So we can say return JWT, right? You can see JWTs from io.json web token. Can you see? This is the object that we are getting. So we'll import JWTs dot builder. Again, builder pattern is coming into the picture. Okay. Cool. And with this builder only, we are going to set what are the properties do we want our JWT to have. Make sense? Okay. So to set the payload, there is a method called as dot set claims. Can you see there is a method called as set claims, inside which you can pass your payload, inside which you can actually pass your payload. Then you can set when this JWT was issued. So you can say set issued at. There's a method called as set issued at. And what you can do is you can say new date object. And here you can pass system dot current time in millis. Make sense? Then you can also set expiry dot set expiration. And what you can do is you can create the expiry. So you can say date now is equals to new date. And we want to set an expiry. So we'll say date expiry date is equals to new date. We will first of all get now dot get time plus expiry into 1000 L. That is, you have to convert this to milliseconds altogether. There you have placed seconds. Here you have to convert into milliseconds. It will create a new date object based on this milliseconds. And then you can pass this expiry date. You can pass this expiry date here. Make sense? Then there is a method called as dot set subject. Now this is an interesting method. If you carefully see the set subject method, this sets the subject claim. Now, what is this subject claim? Anybody? What is this subject claim? Who is the subject here? Or who's the one for which we are going to create the token for? It's the user. Are you able to get this point? Okay. So we have to set maybe a username or a user ID here. So you can read about subject in JWT. Okay. Spring Boot. So let's wait for it to generate maybe. You can see the subject claim in a JSON web token is a string that identifies the principal that is the subject of the JWT. This can be a human user, an organization, or a service, right? Make sense, guys? So maybe what we can do is, apart from the payload, we'll also get, let's say, string username. We have the username, right? Passenger name, driver name, we are going to store. So we'll pass the username here. Make sense, everyone? Is this point making sense? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. And we have to give one more method. Dot set, or sorry, not set, dot sign with. Can you see dot sign with? Here you have to correspondingly give the signing key. Are you able to get this point? Here you have to give the corresponding signing key. Okay. Now, how do you get the signing key? Okay. So you can actually just go here and let's say, like you can open any tutorial and they will give you a direct algorithm or a direct function where you can, using which you can use, create the signing key. Okay. So set signing key, and you can see here they are directly setting the secret. Okay, they are directly setting the secret, or you can do set sign in with signature this comma secret. Are you guys able to get this point? So there are different ways in which you can actually set the sign in key. Okay, so we are also going to do something like this. Okay, so we'll say signature algorithm, and you can choose which signature algorithm you want. Can you see? io.json web token gives you the signature algorithm. Okay, and comma, you can pass the secret. So you have the secret. Okay, make sense? And at last you can say dot compact. The moment you do dot compact, this is going to convert it into the form of a string. You can read the dot compact here. You can see it returns a string. Actually builds the JWT and serializes it to a compact URL safe string. So it is going to create your token and it's going to convert that to a corresponding string. Make sense, everyone? Okay. And can you see they have made changes to their API? That's why we are getting the warning. Instead of using set claims, you can just say dot claims. Instead of using dot set issued at, you can just say issued at. Instead of set expiration, you can just say expiration. So they have changed the methods a bit. So you can see things keep on changing in the API. So that's why I always say don't remember them. And now you can say it like this: dot claim, dot issued at, dot expiration. And here also, let's see, dot sign with. Okay. And let's say string is deprecated. We can use this method. This one is deprecated. So what does they actually say? What should we use? Oh, we are using that only. Let's see. This says it is deprecated. So let's see what should we do in that case. Okay. You can even keep on going with the deprecated one, but later it will be definitely not working later. So you can see, as per the source code, sign with this got deprecated. You can do something like this. Can you see? You can do something like this. You can create a secret key. Keys dot this secret key get bytes. You can do something like this. Can you guys see this? And then you can say dot sign with key. So we will also do this. Let's copy this and I'll paste it here. So I'll say secret key. Okay. Here we'll say keys is coming from io.json web token.security. And this is our secret key is what? This is our secret key. Dot get bytes and this. And here we can just pass the corresponding key. Okay. So you can just Google the APIs altogether and you can see the warning is gone. Why I was not going with the warning? Because later eventually it will be deprecated. So we don't want to be in a situation like that. And can you see we have a basic token method up and running? Are you guys able to get this point? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. Make sense, guys? So even if you want to, if let's first of all just quickly compile the code and see if there is any error or issues that might come up. You can see everything is up and running without any issue, no problem. What we can do is, if you want to test this function, you can say extends command line runner, and I'll override the method. Okay, cool. So we'll say string result is equals to create token. The username, let's say I'll pass as Sanket, and let's create a map. So map of string comma object mp is equals to new hash map. I'll say mp dot put. Let's say the key is email and the value is a@b.com. Then I say mp dot put, and then let's say if I say phone number is this, and then let's say I will pass the mp object. I will pass the mp object onto that. Make sense? And then we can say, sorry, s out generated token is token. Let's see what token we are getting. Sorry, not token, result. Let's see what token we are getting. If I run the code. 1 second. Oh, sorry, it should implement. Implements command line runner. Run it again. Command line runner is an interface. Okay. Okay, we can see that it failed for something. Let's quickly check what it failed for. The specified key is a 64-bit array, which is not secure enough for this. The JWT, this specification state that this must have a size greater than 256 bits. Consider using this key builder or this to create a key. Okay, so you can see it's showing some warnings to us. Let's copy this error. Okay, you can see it's also showing the link, but I'll just copy this error and let's just quickly Google it. Okay, we should get some. Let's put quite a big key. Okay, so it's saying the secret key that I have put is very small. It's asking me to put a very big key. So let's do that. Copy. Maybe this should work. Let's run it. And now you can see a big key worked. No problem with the function. And can you see we have a generated token? Let's copy this token. Let's go to jwt.io. Let's paste this token here. Can you see we are able to decrypt the payload data? Yes or no, guys? We are able to decrypt the payload data. Okay. So from my encoded JSON web token, people can get that data. That's why we need to make sure we have secured it. But nobody can just send random token to us because every token has a meaning. So if somebody will malform our token, then we will know about it. Got it, guys? Okay, so I'll commit everything up till here. JWT creation service started. Okay. So we have seen what each and every single builder method of the corresponding JWT builder is actually using, right? Anybody having any questions, please let me know. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. Ankan, I already mentioned that. Guys, I already mentioned that in the very first class, that putting things in the application.properties is definitely not the way. We will later replace everything with environment variables. Don't worry. We'll do that. There is already a lot of complexity, Ankan, right? I don't want to make sure that everybody is just confused with all of the things. Okay. Cool. Now, what we can do is we can write one more method here. We can write one more method. We can say private Boolean, or let's return a Boolean object inside. Boolean validate token. Okay. Validate the token. Right. Or before validate token, let's do one thing. Let's write is token expired. And we are going to have a string token. Make sense? We are going to check if the token is expired or not. Make sense, guys? So how do we check that? How do we check that? We can write one method. We can write one method. Private date extract expiration. So we can extract the expiration date. Can you see? Inside the token, we have the expiration available with us, right? So we can extract the expiration date. So I'll pass the string token. And we can say, okay. And then in order to implement this, we need one more method. So I'll write one more method, private. Let's say I'll make it a generic method altogether. T, okay. Extract payload. Extract payload. Are you able to get this point? So we need a extract payload method. Okay. And this extract payload method is going to get a token. It's going to get a token. Okay. Remember, what do we call payload as? What do we call the payloads as? What do we call the payloads as, guys? Claims. We call it as claims. Can I say that? Okay. So what we have to do is we have to pass a callback function here. We have to pass a callback function here. And that function is going to be something like this, that it is going to get the claims and it is going to return the corresponding value out of those claims. And claims is what? Just your payload altogether. Okay. And you can say resolver function. Resolver function. Okay. Make sense, everyone? So what we can do is we can say final claims is equals to JWT dot parse builder. There is something called as, I guess, parser dot set signing key. So we have to set the signing key again. Okay. So let's get the signing key again. Copy, paste, and get the key again. Okay, we can extract it out in a different method because we are reusing this. Okay, so we'll set the signing key. We'll say dot build. Okay. And we'll say dot parse claims in the given token dot get body. I guess it's get payload now. Get payload. And this should not be set signing key. We can say dot sign with, I guess. Dot Let's see, what method have they introduced? Dot. Okay, it says decrypt with. Can you see it says decrypt? I guess it's dot decrypt with. And here also we should have dot let's say, I guess we can just say parse. We can just say parse. Or let's see what is taking string as an input. So we can say parse claims JWS. So you can just say parse. Let's see. Parse signed claims. I guess this method should work for us, but let's see. Okay. And we can in fact check. We can in fact just quickly check what is the method. Again, I don't also remember. Extract claims, extract payload from JWT token, claims JWT. Let's see what is the method that people are suggesting. Decode a JWT token. They are not using JWT. Let's see if this LinkedIn article has. I just want to check if my method is correct or not. Okay, so there is this build token. We have this. And you can see they have this method extract all claim. We can even just get it from here. Can you see? We can just get this method from here. Extract all claims. Let's call it as extract payload. Extract all payloads. Okay, for better understanding. And we don't have a get sign in key method. So let's do one thing. Let's introduce this to a function. I'll just cut paste it from here. Okay, let's have a method. Let's say private, and let's call it as, I guess, a key. We should be getting a key, right? You can see we are getting a key. So key get sign key, and we can just return this key. So return this key altogether. Okay, and we can use this get sign key method everywhere. Copy, let's use it here as well. Get sign key, get sign key. Okay, I guess this parse builder has been replaced with parser. Okay, so you can see this is how we can extract all the corresponding payloads. And now you might be thinking, sir, okay, do we have to remember all of this? No, it's just a library. You have to read the docs of the library and get, and get done with it. Make sense? Okay, so now you have claims for all the payloads. Can I say that? Okay, so now you can implement the method extract expiration. How to do that? We will say return and once again. So we have all the payloads extracted. Okay, then you can see we can write one more method. This is for building the token. This is to check extract all claims. This call extract claim. Okay, where is this extract claim method? Let's quickly check. Oh, this one. You can see there is this extract claim method. So let's copy this and paste it here. Okay. Now what extract all payload does is it extracts the whole payload. Now from this payload, if you want to get something very specific, like for example, just the expiration date. So you can actually use this extract claim function. What it does is it takes the token and it takes a function that is going to resolve some particular part of the claim. For example, if you want to get the extraction, so what you can do is you can say extract claim. You can pass the token. And what function you can pass here? What function you can actually pass here? you can say claims get expiration. Can you see? So extract claim, get the token, and gets the get expiration callback method. So what it will do, it will fetch all the claims, that means all the payload, and among that payload, just fetch the expiration detail. Are you able to get this point? And if you want to check if the token is expired or not, if you want to check if the token is expired or not, what you can do is you can say return extract expiration. You will pass the token. And then on this date object, you have an option dot before new date. What is this method checking? What is this method checking? This method checks if the token expiry was before the current timestamp or not. Make sense? Okay. True if token is expired, else false. And the token is the JWT token. Make sense, everyone? So now we have a method to check if the token is expired or not. For that, we extract the expiration date. Anybody having any questions? And similar to extract expiration, you can have more methods. For example, you can have something like private string get subject, or you can say extract username or the subject, whatever you want to call it. Let's call it as username. Extract username. You will again pass the token string token, and you can say return extract claim. You can pass the token, and the method that you can use is claims dot get subject. Right. So these are inbuilt methods, because subject you are separately setting. Can you see? While creating the token, subject you are separately setting. Expiry you are separately setting. Issuing you are separately setting. So from the payload, it is able to extract all of these things, because these are inbuilt methods given by the JWT library. Get expiration is given? No. See, this extract, oh sorry, this get expiration. Yeah. This is given by the claims library. And where is claims coming from? The JWT library. And why it is able to do this? Because if you see the JSON web token that I just created, can you see I just added the email and the phone number, issued at, expiry, subject. These properties were separately added. Who added this? This builder added it. So this library is capable of separately adding these properties. So this library is also capable of separately fetching these properties as well. Are you able to get this point? And most of the time you will find people having a similar kind of a JWT service coming into the picture. You can see what we are writing is almost similar to what this article also has. Can I say that? Make sense, guys? Yes, it must be having some default expiry. For example, if you say dot expiration, okay. Let's see, what is the default expiration? You can just Google default expiration JWT. Okay, 10 hours is the default. Okay, so you can read about it. No problem. Make sense, guys? Okay. Now in our application, I don't think username is going to be a unique identity. Can I say that? So instead of subject being the username, I'll keep email as the username. Okay. And here also I will pass the corresponding email. Make sense, everyone? And here also I should say extract email. Got it? Because email is going to be always unique for us. Make sense? Make sense, guys? Okay. Now let's do one thing. What we are going to do is we are going to say, let's say private Boolean validate token. We are going to validate the token. We are going to get the token as the parameter. Okay. And we are going to get the user email. Okay. based on, let's say, the user email, we are going to validate that the email extracted from the token is same as the user email or not. Make sense, guys? So I'll say final string user email fetched from token is equals to extract email token. Okay, because that's the main subject. And what you can do is once you have the email fetched, you can say that return user email fetched from token dot equals to the given email or not, and not is token expired token. So the token should not be expired, and the email or the subject fetched from the token should be same as the email that we are sending. If that's the case, then we are going to say that yes, it validated the corresponding token. Are you guys able to get this point? You can validate it based on email. You can validate it based on multiple properties as well. Anything. Got it? Because eventually you have the claims object. Can you see? You eventually have the corresponding claims object. From this claims object, you can just parse out things. In real life, it is validated from the DB. I didn't get your question, Rachel. Can you please elaborate? And guys, you can actually read these methods as well. For example, if you want to read this get subject, okay, let's go to, let's see if we are able to find the implementation. Let's say this is an interface, right? Let's find its implementation once. Go to implementations. There we go. And if you do get subject, let's see, command F, get subject. You can see this method calls get on the subject property, right? And how do they get it? So you can say it passed a parameter dot get ID, and it just fetches the value from here. So this is the implementation. So based on this, you can also write your own custom implementation. Make sense? Okay. And let's see if you have any other property. So let's see if there are any other interesting methods that we want to look at. So get issue, you can see you can have get issuer, get subject, get audience, get expiration, get not before, get issued at, get ID, okay, anything specific. Or get, you can also write your own claim name and required type. Make sense? If you go here in the implementation, this is the implementation. This one. This one. Okay. For example, now let's try to use it. So let's say if I do private string extract phone number. Okay, extract phone number from the token. Okay, so what we are going to do is string extract token. I believe we should do something like this. We should first of all get the claims, right? So we should get something like this. Extract expiration. Where is extract expiration? This one. We should do something like this. Copy. And return extract claim. Okay. And here, let's see. This extract claim, if you carefully see, applies this. So what we can do is, we can have this get methods. And what should we pass here? Claim name required type. And so let's do this. We should say claim is equals to extract all payloads of the given token. Okay. And then we can say claim dot get. Okay, let's try to get phone number maybe. Let's see if we are able to access this API. And what's the type? The type is a string. Okay. Let's see. So it's expected an expression. Let's see. What's the second parameter it is expecting? Let's say it says class of T required type. So let's see what our others are passing. They are passing get class name of the required type. Okay, so it will automatically get it from here, I believe. So we already have string number. Let's call it like this. So it should also automatically take it as number. Let's see. And we can just quickly check claim.get. Maybe instead of getting confusing, JWT. Let's see how can we get a particular claim. You can see we have the claims here. Okay. And then verify build parse sign claim dot get payload. And this is going to return you all the, okay, so this is for all the claims, right? 1 second. So if we know the email of the user, can't we create the token with the header as email? So is there a loophole like this? Okay, 1 second. You are saying if we, okay. So you are thinking in a direction where anybody can create a JSON web token. Is that correct, Rajat? But how will anybody know my JSON web token secret? This secret is for my application, right? People will not be able to get that, right? Okay, so I guess we have a right implementation. Let's try it out. Let's try it out. Return number. Okay. So we will say S out. Make sense, Rajat? Are you able to get my point? What I'm trying to say? Yes, the sign-in key is going to be different, right? Let's say extract phone number from the result. Let's see what do we get. Let's see what do we get. If we'll get an error, then we'll see. Because we also need to make sure that we are able to extract out things from the payload, right? And can you see we are able to fetch out the corresponding number as well? Yes or no? Okay. So what we can do is we can write a pretty like intuitive method, whatever you want to do. Like you can write a method like private object extract payload. Okay. And then whatever is the payload you want to pass. So let's say string payload key. You can just pass that payload key. Okay. And we are going to, let's say, have it in the object and just return it. And remove it from here. So you can write a method like this. Can I say that, guys? You can have a .to string here. This dot, or we can do one more thing. We can always return a string, right? We can always return a string. So it will automatically call the to string on that corresponding payload key. So you can write methods like this. You can write just methods like this. Okay. Right. So you can have like result and then you can pass phone number. Okay. So you can return a string altogether, or you can return an object and later call to string on it. You can return an object, copy, and later return a to string on it. I guess this should work. Make sense? If I run the code, you can see we are able to fetch the corresponding phone number as well. Okay. If the payload I will pass as, let's say, email. Okay, if I will pass it as email, if I restart a@b.com. So now we have a method using which we can extract any corresponding payload from our JSON web token. Got it, guys? So git add all. Added payload extraction methods. And again, guys, it's all just library functions. You don't have to bother a lot. Any simple tutorial, even if you will open, you will get all of these methods. The important part is to understand it. Important part is not to say that, okay, how will we know that this is the method? For example, can you see in this LinkedIn article, there was no mention of this extract payload method. Can I say that? Now, how did I write it? I read the whole docs, like I read the interface. I realized that, okay, all of these methods internally are actually calling the get function only. And then they just pass the claim name. Claim name is the payload key. So why not we also pass it? Are you able to get this point? And this actually happens. Like I can tell you with my raw experience from LinkedIn, Google, and now at Microsoft as well. You cannot always even expect documentation to be there. Sometimes you have to read the code, what other people have written, and then understand and prepare understanding of it. For example, so when I was in Google, I was working with a server-side render, like server-driven UI framework. We called it as IKEA. So what the scenario was that if let's say you have a mobile app, so what happens inside a mobile app is that the biggest problem with mobile apps is if you change anything in the UI, you have to make a release again on the Android Play Store and the iOS App Store. How many of you guys know this? If you make an Android app, you have to make another release on the Android App Store and Play Store. But for this and making a release, it's a very hefty process because making a release means checking, having unit testing done, integration testing done, manual testing done, a lot of things done. And sometimes what used to happen was we used to get some urgent requirement of change in the UI. So what the Singapore team of GPay actually prepared was a framework like IKEA. It's an internal framework. Okay. Inside this IKEA framework, we used to write code in kind of like Dart only. And then we don't need a release to make a change to the Google Pay app. We can just make a server-side code change. And this server-side code change used to directly reflect on the app. So as a user, when you will open the app, you will get the change directly without you updating your application. Now, of course, this is an internal framework. This is not open source. There was not a lot of good documentation for it. So what we used to do was we used to read the implementation that, okay, if somebody else has used IKEA, how they have used it. If there is something that nobody else has done, then we used to read the internal code of IKEA, that how the interfaces are looking like, how the class implementations are looking like, then we used to understand. And if there is a capability that is not present in IKEA, then we used to implement it. For example, this framework was so new that if you go to Flutter and you want to check, for example, check the orientation of the mobile app, of the mobile Flutter. There is a very straightforward API to check the orientation of the app. Okay. Like whether it is landscape or you can see orientation.portrait, orientation.landscape. Now this capability was not present inside this framework because it was a very new framework. So then we manually built it all on the top of it. So this will happen that a lot of time you have to prepare your code based on reading what the documentations might be saying. Are you guys able to get this point? Are you guys able to get this point? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. Yes, because IK was an internal framework. It was part of the Google monoliths repository. So we can just directly contribute it because we were owners of that repo as a part of GPay team. Although this framework was not a very success altogether because there was a lot of painful things because it was very new and there was no dedicated team who used to maintain this framework. So everybody who used to contribute it in their 20% time. So in Google, you have a 80-20% rule that 80% time you can focus on your main work, 20% time you can work on something else. So people used to maintain this framework with their 20% time. So it was not a very good supported framework, but the job that it used to do was amazing. So then people started migrating to something else. We used to have some presentation service as well that used to do something, but with a longer route. But yeah. But again, maybe they will open source it someday. I'm waiting for it. Any questions from anyone? Guys, anybody having any questions? Okay. Now there is a homework for you guys. There's a homework for you guys. The homework is, now we have a mechanism to generate the JWT token. Can I say that? We have a mechanism to generate the JWT token. Yes or no, guys? Okay. Sending this JWT token is not going to be much of an issue. Sending this token is not going to be much of an issue. The problem will be when somebody will make a request, they are going to send this token as well. When somebody is going to make a request, they are going to send this token as well. Okay. And we need to extract this token from the request. That means we need to intercept the request. Before the request reaches the controller, we have to kind of like intercept it. How can this interception mechanism work in Spring Boot? You have to figure that out. Is that point making sense to everyone? If you're coming from the world of MERN stack, then you can say that you have to replace middlewares of Express.js. Express.js has middlewares, right? How can you do something similar to that in Spring Boot? You have to figure that out. Everybody got the homework? Everyone got the homework? Any questions from anyone? No questions? सबको समझ में आ गया? Does DB have any role in validating the token? If you are using token-based auth, then I mentioned it already. It's stateless. That means DB has no information about it. Okay. So guys, we'll wrap up today here only because this was, I believe, heavy for a lot of people because generally you are fond of writing very straightforward code. This is a very library specific code. So I want you guys to write it on your own, run it on your own, because from here, whatever we are going to do is going to be patching all of this with Spring security, right? So that is going to take up some effort from our side, right? But I believe you guys got the point of how exactly authentication will actually work. Make sense, everyone? Okay, that being said, let's wrap today's session here, guys. We're going to meet soon in the next session. Till then, take care. Bye-bye. Have a really lovely week ahead, guys. And keep coding.